The sun cast long shadows across the pristine lawns of the United Nations headquarters as the massive alien vessel pierced through Earth's atmosphere. Its crystalline surface caught the morning light, sending rainbow reflections dancing across the gathered crowd. Military personnel and diplomats stood shoulder to shoulder, their necks craned skyward, as humanity prepared for its first extraterrestrial contact. Ambassador Sun Mei Park smoothed down her formal navy blue suit, her steady hands betraying none of the anxiety churning in her stomach. Beside her, General James Cooper maintained his characteristic stoic expression, though his fingers tapped a rhythmic pattern against his thigh. The weight of humanity's future rested on their shoulders. "Atmospheric entry complete," announced a voice through the military comms. "Alien vessel maintaining stable descent pattern." The ship, nearly twice the size of a football field, settled onto the designated landing zone with unexpected grace. Its surface rippled like liquid mercury, adjusting to Earth's gravity. Steam hissed from unseen vents as the vessel's external temperature normalized. "Remember," General Cooper muttered, "no sudden movements. We don't want to spook our new friends." Sun Li nodded, her training kicking in as she prepared to make humanity's first diplomatic contact. 20 years of international relations experience had led to this moment, though nothing in her career had prepared her for greeting beings from another world. A seam appeared in the ship's smooth surface, widening into an elegant arch. The assembled crowd held its collective breath. Through the opening emerged beings that defied expectation. The aliens, calling themselves the Cathan, moved with fluid grace. Their bodies, covered in short, shimming fur, reminded Sun Li of deer she'd seen in nature documentaries. Large, expressive eyes dominated their delicate faces, and their long necks swayed gently as they walked. Each Cathan stood nearly 7 feet tall, though their builds were slender and seemingly fragile. Their leader, who introduced himself as Representative Kaiho, stepped forward. His translator device hummed softly as he spoke, converting his musical language into English. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council to the species known as humanity." The formal introductions proceeded smoothly, following the carefully choreographed protocol developed by Earth's leading sinologists. Everything seemed to be going perfectly until the delegation moved inside for the initial cultural exchange. During the preliminary briefing, Keiho's large eyes grew wider as Earth's representatives explained basic human biology and society. His translator device trembled in his grip when they reached the topic of human dietary habits. "You consume other beings." Keiho's voice quavered. The other Cathans behind him took involuntary steps backward, their fur standing on end. Sun Mi tried to salvage the situation. "We are omnivores, yes. We consume both plant and animal matter for sustenance. This is quite common among Earth species." The revelation sent ripples of distress through the alien delegation. Keiho's assistant fainted, requiring immediate attention from their medical officer. The Cathans huddled together, their body language screaming fear and revulsion. "In our society," Keiho explained, his voice trembling, "the consumption of other living beings is considered barbaric. We evolved from pure herbivores. The concept of predation is deeply disturbing to our species." General Cooper stepped forward, his military bearings somehow making the situation worse as the Cathans flinched at his movement. "Perhaps we should focus on our commonalities rather than our differences," he suggested, trying to keep his voice gentle. But the damage was done. The initial excitement of first contact had given way to something far more complicated. As Sun Mi watched the Cathans whisper among themselves, she realized humanity's place in the galactic community would be forever colored by this fundamental difference. "We must inform the Council," Keiho announced, his composure somewhat restored. "We were not prepared for this aspect of your species. It will require significant adjustment to our integration protocols." As the first day of human-alien contact drew to a close, Sun Mi couldn't help but wonder how this revelation would affect humanity's future among the stars. The Cathans' reaction suggested that humans might be seen as something dangerous in the galactic community, predators among a society of peaceful herbivores. Looking at General Cooper's concerned face, she knew they both understood the implications. Humanity's first step into the galactic community had revealed not just cultural differences, but fundamental biological ones that could shape their entire relationship with alien species. The sun set on that historic day, casting long shadows once again across the UN grounds. The Cathan ship gleamed in the dying light, its crystalline surface now seeming less welcoming and more like a barrier between two very different worlds. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, both species retreated to process the revelations of this momentous day. The tension in the conference room could be cut with a knife. Ji-Won Lee adjusted his presentation materials one final time, aware that this cultural exchange session could either mend or further damage humanity's relationship with the Cathans. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and the aliens' initial horror at human biology had only deepened. The Cathan delegates filed into the room, their fur rippling with nervous energy. Ji-Won noticed they chose seats furthest from the human representatives. Their large eyes darted between exits, a behavior he documented as typical prey species response. Today, Ji-Won began, his voice steady. We'll explore human civilization's development and our peacekeeping efforts. He believed showing the Cathans how humans channeled their predatory instincts into protection would ease their fears. The first hour went smoothly as he covered human art, music, and scientific achievements. The Cathans seemed to relax slightly, some even showing interest in Earth's environmental preservation efforts. Then came the military portion of the presentation. The screen displayed footage of a joint NATO training exercise. The moment the first soldiers appeared, moving in coordinated formations, the Cathan delegation's composure shattered. Their translator devices filled the room with distressed chirping as they watched humans demonstrate tactical maneuvers. "Please," one Cathan diplomat whispered, "stop the recording." But it was the next segment that truly horrified them. The video showed U.S. Navy SEALs conducting an underwater infiltration exercise. The precise movements, the coordinated teamwork, the calculated efficiency, it triggered something deep in the Cathans' genetic memory. "The pack hunters," Representative Kehoe muttered, his translator barely catching his words. "Just like the shadow striders of our ancient plains." Ji-Won quickly paused the presentation, but the damage was done. The Cathans huddled together, their fur standing on end. He recognized their behavior from studying Earth's deer when wolves were near. "These are defensive capabilities," Ji-Won explained, trying to salvage the situation. "Humans developed these skills to protect, not to hunt sentient beings." "You don't understand," Kehoe responded, his voice trembling. "Our species spent millions of years being hunted by creatures that moved exactly like your soldiers. The way they coordinate, the way they think as one unit. It's identical to the predators that nearly wiped out our ancestors." The human military observers in the room shifted uncomfortably. General Cooper's presence, usually reassuring, now seemed to heighten the Cathans' anxiety. A young Cathan scientist, braver than his peers, spoke up. "Your species didn't just survive predators," he observed. "You became them. You took their hunting patterns and perfected them with technology and strategy." Ji-Won saw an opportunity in this insight. "Yes, but we also developed empathy, compassion, and a deep desire to protect those weaker than ourselves. Our predatory past helped us become better guardians." The words seemed to intrigue some Cathans, but then someone played the next video clip by mistake. It showed American Special Forces conducting a night raid exercise. The sight of humans moving with lethal precision through darkness sent the alien delegation into full panic. "Enough," Kehoe declared, standing abruptly. "We must contact the Council immediately. The humans aren't just omnivores. They're apex predators with advanced technology and strategic thinking capabilities." As the Cathans hurriedly left the room, Ji-Won watched years of sino-anthropological theory crumble. He had believed that showing human military capability as a protective force would help bridge the gap. Instead, it had confirmed the Cathan's worst fears about humanity. General Cooper approached him after the room cleared. "Well, that could have gone better," he said dryly. Jai-1 nodded, gathering his materials. "We're going to need a completely different approach. Their fear isn't just cultural. It's buried in their DNA. Every human military movement reminds them of ancient predators." As they left the conference room, Jai-1 couldn't help but wonder if humanity's predatory nature would forever mark them as outsiders in the galactic community. The Cathans saw humans not just as meat-eaters, but as the very embodiment of the hunters that had haunted their species' nightmares for millions of years. The challenge of bridging this divide suddenly seemed far more daunting than anyone had anticipated. It wasn't just about cultural understanding anymore. It was about finding a way to help an entire species overcome their deepest, most primal fears. Red dust swirled across the Martian landscape as alarms blared through the colony's corridors. Ajin Kim's fingers flew across the emergency console, broadcasting distress signals across all frequencies. The Joint Earth-Cathan colony, just 6 months old, faced its first real crisis as 3 unmarked ships descended from the rust-colored sky. "This is Colony Director Ajin Kim. We have confirmed Razak pirate vessels approaching, requesting immediate assistance. Our defense systems are not equipped for this level of threat." Her voice remained steady despite the chaos erupting around her. Through the colony's reinforced windows, she watched the Cathan colonists huddled in groups, their fur rippling with terror. Unlike their human counterparts who rushed to emergency stations, the herbivorous aliens seemed paralyzed by fear. Their evolutionary response to danger, to freeze, was kicking in at the worst possible moment. The pirate ships, modified civilian vessels bristling with illegal weapons, touched down just outside the colony's perimeter. Their hull markings had been deliberately obscured, but the aggressive landing pattern was unmistakable. The Razak pirates were notorious throughout the galaxy for targeting vulnerable colonies. Director Kim called out her human security chief. "They're deploying boarding pods. Our shields won't hold against a concentrated assault." In the command center, Ho-Jin watched as the first explosion rocked the colony's outer defenses. The Cathan scientists whimpered, pressing themselves against the walls. Their terror was palpable, and she couldn't blame them. Their species had never evolved to handle direct confrontation. "Galactic Council Emergency Response. Please hold for deliberation," came the maddeningly calm reply to their distress call. The Council must achieve consensus before deploying peacekeeping forces. He-Jin slammed her fist on the console. "We don't have time for deliberation. We have 300 colonists here, half of them Cathan civilians." The pirates breached the outer airlock with frightening efficiency. Security cameras showed them moving through the corridors in environment suits, their weapons trained on anything that moved. They were clearly experienced in colony raids. Then, just as despair started to set in, a new voice crackled over the emergency channel. "Mars Colony 1, this is Captain Rodriguez of the U.S. Normandy. We're 8 minutes out. Hold tight." Hope surged through He-Jin's chest. The Normandy was one of Earth's newest space combat vessels, designed specifically for rapid response to colonial emergencies. She had no idea they were in the area, but right now it felt like a miracle. "The Americans?" whispered one of the Cathan scientists, his translator barely picking up his trembling voice. "But the Council hasn't authorized intervention." He-Jin allowed herself a grim smile. "They're not waiting for authorization." The pirates had reached the main colony section, forcing their way through internal security doors. They clearly expected to find easy targets. Most colonial populations were scientists and farmers. What they didn't expect was the reception they received at the central hub. The colony's small security team, though outnumbered, had used those precious minutes to set up defensive positions. They fought with the desperate courage of those protecting their homes and families. But they were losing ground, and everyone knew it. 7 minutes felt like 7 hours. He-Jin watched in horror as the pirates advanced, section by section. The Cathan's terror had spread to some of the human colonists now, as the sound of weapon fire grew closer to the command center. Then the whole colony shook. Through the observation windows, Ho-Jin saw the U.S. Normandy drop out of high orbit like an avenging angel. Its sleek form, designed for both space combat and atmospheric operations, cast a shadow over the pirates' landed vessels. "This is Captain Rodriguez to all hostile forces," boomed a new transmission on all frequencies. "You have exactly 30 seconds to surrender before we open fire." The pirates' response was predictable. They shot at the Normandy. It was also their last mistake. What followed was a display of military precision that left even the human colonists in awe. The Normandy's point defense systems disabled the pirates' ships with surgical strikes, while Marines in powered armor breached the colony from multiple points. The pirates, caught between the colony's remaining defenders and the American Marines, didn't stand a chance. The entire battle was over in less than 10 minutes. As the Marines secured the colony and medical teams treated the wounded, Ho-Jin noticed something extraordinary. The Cathans were staring at the human soldiers with an expression she'd never seen before, not just fear, but something like wonder. "They fought to protect us," one Cathan whispered to another, "like the stories of the guardian beasts from our ancient texts." Captain Rodriguez arrived at the command center personally to check on the colonial leadership. "Sorry we cut it so close," he said, removing his helmet. "We came as soon as we picked up your distress signal." "But the council," Ho-Jin began. With all due respect to the council, Rodriguez replied with a slight smile. "We don't leave our people hanging while bureaucrats debate." Looking at the mixed expressions of fear and gratitude on the Cathans' faces, Ho-Jin realized this incident might have just changed everything. Humans had demonstrated they weren't just predators. They were protectors. Lieutenant Min-Ki pressed himself against the cold Martian corridor wall, his tactical display showing heat signatures of the remaining pirates scattered throughout the colony. His Delta Force team had deployed from the U.S. Normandy minutes ago, and now they moved like shadows through the emergency-lit passages. "Ensign Tati, status on colony systems," Min-Ki whispered into his comm. "Sir, I've gained access to environmental controls." The young ensign's voice crackled back. "The pirates are concentrated in 3 main groups. They're using standard search patterns. They've never faced anything like us before." Min-Ki smiled behind his combat mask. The pirates were used to terrorizing peaceful colonies, not fighting elite special forces. Through his enhanced vision, he watched the Cathan colonists huddled in secure rooms, their large eyes wide with a mixture of terror and fascination as they observed the humans in action. "Team 1, prepare to execute Operation Hunting Ground," Min-Ki commanded. "Tahi, on my mark, implement Protocol 7. The ensign had come up with a brilliant strategy, using the colony's atmospheric systems as a weapon. By selectively depressurizing sections and controlling emergency bulkheads, they could herd the pirates exactly where they wanted them. "Execute." Warning klaxons blared as emergency doors slammed shut throughout the colony. The pirates, caught off guard, found their groups suddenly split and isolated. Atmosphere vented from carefully selected corridors, forcing them to retreat along predetermined paths. Min-Ki's team moved with predatory grace. Their movements, honed by years of training, were precisely coordinated. Each soldier knew exactly where to be, what to do, operating as parts of a perfectly synchronized hunting pack. Through the security cameras, the Cathan colonists watched in astonishment. To their eyes, trained by millions of years of evolution to recognize predator behavior, the humans moved like something from their species' darkest nightmares. But they were hunting the hunters, protecting the prey. "Section 3 cleared," reported Team 2's leader. "Pirates are falling back exactly as predicted." Tati's voice came through the comm again. "Sir, they're attempting to regroup in the main hydroponics bay. Shall I proceed with Phase 2? "Execute Phase 2, Min-Ki ordered. The ensign's fingers flew across his console. Suddenly, the hydroponics bay's lighting system went into strobe mode, disorienting the pirates. The irrigation systems activated, spraying fine mist that interfered with their vision. The temperature dropped rapidly, causing their weapon sights to fog. Min Ki's team struck like lightning. They moved through the chaos with practiced ease, their enhanced combat suits compensating for the environmental challenges. The pirates, already rattled, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to materialize from the mist itself. "Please," one pirate begged, dropping his weapon. "We surrender. We've never seen anything like this." Within minutes, the remaining pirates were subdued. As Min Ki's team secured the prisoners, he noticed the Cathan scientists emerging from their shelters. Their expressions had changed. The fear remained, but now it was mixed with something else. Respect. One elderly Cathan approached Min Ki, trembling slightly. "Your species," he said through his translator. "You hunt like the shadow stalkers of our ancient world. But you hunt those who would harm us." Min Ki removed his helmet, offering what he hoped was a reassuring smile. "That's what humans do best. We protect our own. And the Cathans are our people now too." Later, during the debriefing, Captain Rodriguez commended Tahi's innovative strategy. The young ensign had turned the entire colony into a hunting ground, using its systems to control and contain the threat with minimal damage to the structure. The footage of the operation spread quickly through both human and Cathan networks. It showed something unprecedented: humans unleashing their predatory nature, not for conquest or cruelty, but for protection. The Cathans began to understand that having apex predators as allies might not be such a terrifying thing after all. As Min Ki watched the Cathan colonists slowly relaxing around their human protectors, he realized that today had changed more than just the safety of one colony. It had demonstrated that humanity's predatory instincts, which had so terrified their alien neighbors, could become their greatest asset in building trust across the stars. The grand auditorium of the Galactic Military Academy fell silent as Commander Sora Kim stepped onto the stage. Her decorated uniform bore the patches of both Earth's Space Force and the newly formed Galactic Defense Initiative. The audience, comprised of military theorists from 100 different species, waited with a mixture of anticipation and unease. "Today," Sora began, activating the holographic display, "we will analyze the Mars colony incident and its implications for galactic security doctrine." The display showed the now famous footage of Delta Force's operation against the Razak pirates. Many in the audience flinched as the human soldiers moved with predatory grace through the colony corridors. But unlike previous reactions of pure fear, the military observers now leaned forward, studying every move with professional interest. "Humans evolved as pursuit predators," Sora explained, highlighting the tactical movements. "Our ancestors would track prey for days, using endurance and intelligence rather than pure speed or strength. This evolved into our modern military doctrine." The footage shifted to show Ensign Tahi's innovative use of colony systems. Gasps of appreciation echoed through the hall as the aliens witnessed how humans had turned an entire habitat into a weapon without damaging its structure. "What you're seeing isn't just combat," Sora continued. "It's millions of years of predatory evolution combined with technological advancement and strategic thinking. We don't just fight, we hunt." A Cathan military theorist raised his hand, his voice trembling slightly. "But how do you maintain control? Our studies show that predatory species often lose themselves to bloodlust." Sora smiled. "That's what makes humans unique. We've developed complex moral and ethical systems to channel our predatory instincts. We hunt to protect, not to destroy." The presentation continued, showing various examples of human military operations. Each demonstration revealed how American forces had perfected the blend of instinct and technology. The alien observers watched in fascination as humans demonstrated pack hunting behaviors that had been extinct on most worlds for millions of years. "The Americans, in particular," Sora explained, "have developed their combat doctrine to maximize these natural advantages. They don't just use technology, they integrate it with their predatory instincts. The footage from Mars played again, this time with tactical overlays showing the complex decision-making processes. The aliens marveled at how human soldiers could think both individually and as a pack, adapting instantly to changing situations. This is why the Razak pirates were so thoroughly defeated, Sora continued. They faced an enemy that could outthink, outmaneuver, and outhunt them at every turn. By the end of the presentation, the atmosphere in the auditorium had transformed. Fear remained, but it was overshadowed by respect and curiosity. Military leaders from various species approached Sora, requesting training programs and joint exercises with human forces. "Your people could revolutionize galactic peacekeeping," admitted one high-ranking alien official. "We've always relied on technology to compensate for our herbivorous evolution. But you've shown us that instinct, properly channeled, can be just as valuable." News of the presentation spread rapidly through galactic networks. Soon, the Galactic Military Academy made human combat doctrine a required course. Species that had once shunned Earth as a world of dangerous predators now sent their best and brightest to learn from human instructors. Sora watched with satisfaction as the first joint training exercises began. Humans teaching herbivorous species how to channel fear into focused action, how to use their natural flight responses to better understand defensive positioning, and how to blend their own evolutionary advantages with human tactical doctrine. The galaxy was changing. Humanity's predatory nature, once seen as a mark of barbarism, had become their greatest contribution to galactic civilization. As Sora reviewed applications for the next training cycle, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. The very thing that had initially terrified their galactic neighbors had become the foundation of a new era in interstellar security. The lunar landscape stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced windows of the interspecies combat training facility. Ambassador Jinho Park stood in the observation deck, watching the training exercises below. Earth's natural satellite had become the galaxy's premier military education center, a development that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Below, Colonel Yujin guided a group of Cathan trainees through basic defensive maneuvers. Their naturally timid movements were beginning to show hints of predatory grace, learned from hours of careful instruction. The sight still amazed Jinho, herbivorous species voluntarily learning the ways of the hunters. "Your new proposal to the Council is bold, Ambassador," remarked the Galactic High Commissioner, his translator converting his musical language to crisp English. "Establishing humanity as the primary defensive force for the galaxy's peaceful species." Jinho nodded, his eyes fixed on the training ground. "We've proven ourselves worthy of trust. The Mars incident showed that human predatory instincts can be a shield rather than a threat." The American-led training program had transformed Luna Base into a melting pot of species. Beings that once fled at the mere mention of predators now eagerly studied under human instructors. Colonel Yujin's innovative teaching methods had been particularly successful, helping herbivorous species overcome their instinctive fear responses. "Watch this," Jinho said, pointing to the training area. Colonel Yujin had organized the Cathan trainees into a formation that mimicked their natural herding instincts, but with a tactical twist. Instead of bunching together in fear, they moved as a coordinated unit, using their numbers as an advantage. "Remarkable," the High Commissioner murmured. "You're not trying to change their nature. You're teaching them to use it differently." The training session below demonstrated the new philosophy perfectly. Cathan trainees, once paralyzed by threat responses, now channeled their natural awareness of danger into heightened battlefield observation. Their instinctive herd movements became coordinated tactical maneuvers. In the council chambers, Jinho's proposals continued to gain support. Humanity's role was evolving from feared newcomers to respected protectors. The Americans' willingness to share their military expertise had earned them particular influence among the galactic community. "The pirates have noticed," the High Commissioner noted. "Attacks on colonial worlds have dropped by 70% since the training program began." Jinho smiled. "Fear can work both ways. Now they know that attacking a seemingly defenseless colony might mean facing trained defenders who learned from humanity's best. Colonel Yu Jin's voice crackled over the observation deck's comm system. "Ambassador, would you like to observe the advanced class? We're teaching integrated species tactics today." They moved to another observation point, where human instructors worked with mixed groups of aliens. The sight was unprecedented. Predator and prey species learning to work together, combining their evolutionary advantages into something entirely new. "This is the future we envisioned," Jin Ho told the High Commissioner. "Not just teaching others to fight like humans, but creating new ways of thinking about defense and security." The Americans had taken the lead in developing these new methodologies. Their combat doctrine, already formidable, had evolved to incorporate the unique abilities of various species. They taught herbivorous aliens to use their natural alertness for early warning systems, their herd instincts for coordinated movements, their flight responses for rapid deployment strategies. As the training session concluded, Jin Ho watched the trainees interact. The fear that had once defined interspecies relationships was fading, replaced by mutual respect and understanding. Humanity's predatory nature, once a barrier to galactic integration, had become a bridge. "The Council votes tomorrow on your proposal," the High Commissioner reminded him. "But I think we both know the outcome. The galaxy needs what humanity offers: protection with understanding, strength with restraint." Jin Ho nodded, watching as Colonel Yu Jin gathered her trainees for a final briefing. The Luna Base facility had become more than just a training center. It was a symbol of how far both humans and aliens had come in understanding each other. The stars shone brilliantly through the reinforced windows, reminding Jin Ho of how much larger their world had become. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not by hiding their predatory nature, but by transforming it into something noble: the instinct to protect rather than just hunt. The grand ceremony hall of the Galactic Defense Force headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Fleet Admiral Sung Ho Chung stood before the massive windows overlooking Earth, his new commander's insignia gleaming under the artificial lights. 5 years had transformed humanity from suspicious newcomers to the backbone of galactic security. "We gather here today," he began, addressing the assembled representatives of 200 species, "to mark not just a change in leadership, but the completion of a journey." His voice carried across the silent hall, where humans and aliens stood together as equals. Behind him, screens displayed footage from humanity's journey through the stars. The initial fear of the Cathans, the Mars colony incident, the establishment of the Luna Base training facilities, each moment had built toward this day. "Humanity's predatory nature once terrified our galactic neighbors," Sung Ho continued. "Now it serves as their shield." The Americans led the way, showing that the instincts that made us hunters could make us protectors. Admiral Wu stepped forward, her weathered face reflecting decades of military experience. "When I first proposed integrating human combat doctrine into galactic defense," she said, "many thought it was madness. But look at us now." The statistics displayed on the screens told the story. Piracy down 90%, colonial world attacks nearly eliminated, and unprecedented cooperation between species once divided by their evolutionary histories. In the audience, representatives from formerly vulnerable species nodded in agreement. Their worlds had transformed from easy targets to well-defended strongholds, thanks to training from human instructors and the implementation of Earth-based defense strategies. "Our predatory past," Admiral Wu continued, "taught us patience, strategy, and the coordination of pack hunting. But our civilization taught us to channel these instincts toward protection rather than destruction." The American influence on the new Galactic Defense Force was evident everywhere, from the tactical training programs to the command structure itself. Their military doctrine had evolved into something greater, incorporating the unique abilities of every species into a comprehensive defense strategy. Sung Ho moved to the ceremonial platform, where he would take his oath as Supreme Commander. The position itself was a testament to how far humanity had come. 5 years ago, The mere presence of humans had caused panic. Now, they were trusted with the security of the entire galaxy. "We face new challenges," he declared, "but we face them together, predator and prey united in common cause." Earth's journey from isolation to leadership proves that evolution doesn't define destiny. It merely provides tools we choose how to use. The ceremony concluded with a display that would have been unthinkable during first contact. A joint exercise between human special forces and Cathan defense units. They moved together with fluid grace, each species complementing the other's strengths. As the applause faded, Admiral Wu approached Sun Ho privately. "Did you ever imagine," she asked, "that our hunting instincts would become our greatest diplomatic asset?" Sun Ho watched as human and alien officers mingled freely, sharing stories and strategies. "We didn't just teach them to defend themselves," he replied. "We learned from them too. Their perspective helped us understand our own nature better." The stars shone brightly through the station's windows, each one representing worlds now under humanity's protection. Earth had found its place in the galaxy not by denying its predatory nature, but by transforming it into something noble. As the ceremony ended and the new era began, Sun Ho reflected on humanity's extraordinary journey. From frightening newcomers to trusted protectors, from isolated predators to galactic guardians, they had become something their ancestors could never have imagined. The galaxy had learned that having humans as allies meant more than just having powerful defenders. It meant having teachers, protectors, and friends who understood both the responsibility and the restraint that came with being apex predators. Earth's evolution was indeed complete, but its journey was just beginning. Under the watchful eyes of its human guardians, the galaxy entered a new age of peace and security, built on the foundation of humanity's transformed predatory legacy.